You ready, Tim?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Push it.
What's that? Okay. City Council work session. It's Monday, March 9th, 2026, 4:30 PM. Thomas J. Smith Council Chambers here at Burlington City Hall, 400 Washington Street. We have a few discussion items tonight. The first one would be a legislative update by the department heads led by Chad Burt.
So we're going to tag team this a little bit. Some of the other staff members have some slides in here that we want to talk about as well. And so what I wanted to do today, actually, is we talked a little bit at our department head meeting last week. We thought there were enough moving pieces with some of this legislation in this session, 91st session, that we thought it'd be good to try to get some information in front of you, let you know some of our concerns as staff, and to let you see some of the things that keep us up at night. So you can stay up at night with us, right? So,
Some of us are
Yeah.
already doing.
I assume these are all through the first funnel then?
they are.
Okay.
These would be active as of at least when we wrote this late last
Okay.
week. So now, some of them we already know have been amended or changed. I think a couple of them already have different bill numbers, so it's an ever-changing target. So Eric, if you would, or can I control that, or? Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I caught you on the trigger. Thank you. So this first one actually comes out of a Supreme Court case a year or so ago. Actually, the case is probably a little older than that. It's the Splitberger case out of Des Moines, and it has to do with sidewalk liability. And basically, the situation is that an individual was harmed on the sidewalk, a trip and fall, sued the city, and sued the adjoining property owner, which happened to be, I think, Bankers Trust, and it ended up going all the way to the Supreme Court. The city alleged that, well, hey, our code says it's the adjoining property owner's responsibility to maintain sidewalks. And that has been the theory of law for a generation. But the Supreme Court said differently and said, no, the city has some liability and some effort to maintain sidewalks. And so really, as that second bullet point says, it shifted liability and sidewalk liability specifically in those conditions to the city. There is legislation then, of course, to try to correct that, and that's what House File 2359, Senate File 2146 would look at doing, is going back to what we all thought was the rule of law prior to the Supreme Court decision. So I don't know if there's any questions on that. Some of these I don't have a lot of additional information for, but they're things that are pertinent and you should be aware of. Local ordinances and notices. This one on its surface is one I think that we would all appreciate because it allows for notices to be published on a city website instead of just in the newspaper, which is something that I think we've advocated for a long time because it recognizes current technology. However, buried in the weeds of this bill is the requirement that any city department policy, think administrative policy or policy I might issue or that a department head might issue to their staff, would have to be presented to and approved by ordinance to the city council. In addition to that, and it says there, departments, offices, subunits may not implement or enforce internal policies unless approved by the city council through an ordinance. And I just look at that and think of just the administrative work necessary to bring any of the policies and administrative actions that we take to prepare and deliver an ordinance to you. And then, of course, that's, for us, it's a hearing, it's 3 readings, it's publication to get them approved. But that Division 2 also goes deeper and says that city staff must prepare and include a cost analysis identifying impacts to taxpayers and businesses and it must be posted online. So any of those administrative policies or rules must have a cost analysis basis presented as well. And then, of course, the last bullet point there is the public notice modernization, and that's Division 1, which allows those to be posted on a website, which would be great. It's, right, keeping with technology. So, anything on that?
No questions.
Right, yeah. No question.
Okay, well, we'll just keep moving through. So,
All right,
yeah,
When we talk with state officials on this, I hope they clarify that what they're talking about specifically. If they're talking about every policy, that's not only burdensome, but it's foolish. I mean, there's things that the police department's, policies the police department's going to make for their officers that really are not pertinent and that doesn't deserve the time and the cost that involved in this. We need to
Right.
get that message across.
so right now, I haven't seen any specificity in that or clarity on that. Right now, it's what it says and what I presented here in those slides, right? So,
So this would be like control of lunch hours and
I was thinking that too.
but why not? It
In
doesn't
theory.
say it's not,
In theory,
right?
yes.
So,
It
yeah,
basically gives council, it's gonna give council all kinds of oversight on stuff that we really shouldn't be providing oversight on, in my opinion. The reason we
That's why
hire
we have-
professional people is to
Yeah.
do professional jobs.
and some of these, I don't know where the genesis is coming from. Obviously, there's some problem somewhere in the state.
Right.
And somebody got a legislator to write a bill for it. We see that a lot, but I don't know where the genesis in this one is coming from. I do know the league is in favor of Division 1, which is online publication. They are working hard to amend or remove Division 2. That's all I know through today. All right, the next couple of them here are going to be the property tax reform bills, and this is now that we're past the first funnel and some of the dust is cleared on somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 bills submitted this year, and we're past that first funnel. They're starting to focus now on some of these policy and tax and finance bills, but there's still not a lot of congruency between the three bills on property tax reform. We have the governor's bill, we have a Senate version, and we have a House version. We're starting to hear bits and pieces of each one, but right now, there isn't a single bill, so each of these are still moving in their own right through the process. So what I thought I would do is just kind of walk through a couple of the key points of each one. So in the governor's bill, there's a limit on the amount of general fund reserves that a city shall have, and that limit is 10% of budgeted expenditures. There's a cap on all local government revenue growth at 2%, and that's revenue growth. That's not levy rates, that's not valuations, that's revenue growth. So whatever revenue you had last year, you get 2% this year. There's a prohibition on bonding
I
for,
have a
yeah,
question on that, the revenue growth. So because it is somewhat, it's not really, that includes sales tax,
no, general fund,
just general, oh,
Right.
general fund, you did say
Yep.
that, sorry.
okay?
Just frustrated by that, so.
Yeah. There's a prohibition on bonding for general operations, which, as a matter of practice and policy, is not something we do anyway. So again, somebody out there is bonding for general operating. I don't, that doesn't even make fiscal sense, so I don't understand that. So there are significant changes to TIF districts, largely reducing allowable uses and limiting projects to public purposes for 20 years. Behind the scenes on this one, many cities will have perpetual TIF districts. So if a TIF district was created before 1992, I think, if I recall right, they are what you might call perpetual. They don't have a sunset or an expiration date. Any urban renewal area that was created after 1992 has a 20-year sunset. The problem with that for slow-growing cities like Burlington is that if we had to take all of our perpetual TIF districts and reestablish that frozen base, let's say today or on July 1, we're growing slow enough that it would take us another decade or more to build up enough increment to be able to meaningfully use it for public improvement projects. Because right now we have a frozen base that's older. Time has been our ally creating that increment that we can use it for infrastructure projects. And we're by no means abusing that system. As a matter of fact, we released about $30 million in TIF last year for this year because we didn't need it, right? We weren't bonding projects in a TIF environment where we needed that. Maybe next year we need to go capture some more. But if we had to reestablish a base, we'll lose that increment and won't have that available for a long time. We're just not growing at that rate. Another element is that tax bill from the governor creates a property tax freeze for Iowans age 65 and older with homes valued at $350,000 or less. The Senate's property tax reform bill, which is Senate Study Bill 3001, this is the one I think that most folks in the local government sector are leaning towards because it has some measures that at least recognize the differences between cities around the state. The first one is there's a limitation on property tax growth through a budget adjustment factor attached to CPI language. For new valuations to include budget limitation, let's see, I'm saying that wrong. Attached to CPI and language for new valuation to include new construction, right? So it removes new construction to your limitation and says, well, you get to take value for new construction coming on. The other ones don't. It's just 2% cap regardless. There's a removal of the rollbacks for residential, commercial, and industrial classifications. There's a new homestead exemption that transitions over a 10-year period of time to eventually set at a 50% exemption capped at $350,000. So basically, it removes the rollback and over 10 years' time sets that at 50%. There's still that prohibition on bonding for general operations. There's an allowance for local governments to increase local option sales tax from 1% to 1.5%. This is the first time I think we've seen anything about local option sales tax, although it's been discussed the last couple of years. And then there's a gas tax index tied to CPI. It's probably been about 10 or 12 years since we've seen an increase in the fuel tax, the gas tax. So tying that to CPI could be good for street maintenance and projects there. Okay, the House bill caps all local government revenue growth at 2%, but does exclude new valuation connected to new construction, debt service, and school funding. So again, they're recognizing that anything you're doing over here to grow your community, you can take value for that. Everything else is capped at 2%. I don't know if I'm moving through these slides because I have different notes, but sorry about that. Let me catch up. Well,
I caught you up a little.
oh, okay. So thanks, Eric. You're paying attention. There are new and clear and concise reporting requirements for property taxes. That's that notification letter that everybody got last year that nobody understood, right? This bill, the House bill, tries to clarify that. Here in a minute, I think I have an example we can show that might clarify what that looks like. It's still being worked and has been approved, but they acknowledged the last couple of years of that notification letter that was mailed to everybody was not effective. So they're trying to fix that piece. Then the only other piece in here that I would note is it requires the Council of Governments, that's Southeast Iowa Regional Planning, to provide to provide planning and technical assistance on sharing services between local governments. So that'll be a new requirement coming from regional planning. All right, if that bill goes through. Is this where we are? Okay, I don't remember why I put this one in here. This one, well, okay, this is the House version of the bill that goes to website, internet posting of meetings and agendas and public notices, which is a good thing. House File 2325, Local Government Operations, Social Districts. Amends Iowa law to authorize cities to create social districts or downtown entertainment districts where people can possess and consume alcoholic beverages on public streets, sidewalks, and other public places, subject to rules and regulations as might be set forth by the council through ordinance. This is something that we've been talking with DPI Main Street for a while, trying to kind of figure out and navigate. And actually, I think the sponsor or the floor manager is Taylor Collins on this one, so he's crafted this language. So there you go. SUDAS. This one is pretty egregious in my mind, although since I even created this and sent it to you, it's been amended. So, but basically, the state has had SUDAS, which is State Urban Design Specifications, and that's SUDAS is something like that, State Urban Design Administrative
And specifications.
and specifications and specifications. And it's basically an independent body that it sees public works officials, engineers, et cetera, that are on a board that facilitates standards, design standards and specifications for public improvement projects. It's a voluntary process, whether a city would want to adopt those standards or not. Burlington has, pushing 20 years, I think, we've had them, and we use them. This legislation would remove the majority of technical expertise from the board and allow developers and realtors to sit on the board. The early version said that if a city were to adopt anything more stringent than what SUDAS would call out, that the city would be liable for any costs incurred by a developer or other for those improvements above and beyond SUDAS. Now, the egregious part of that is when the development review process and construction is all done, almost all of these public improvement projects are owned by the city. So it's in the city's advantage and best interest to ensure that they meet sound engineering principles, because the taxpayers of a community are going to foot the bill for any repairs, maintenance, and improvements for that infrastructure ad infinitum, right? So to think that somebody less than technical experts would drive these, or that the city would have to pay for anything more stringent, really puts an excess burden on taxpayers of the community should the infrastructure fail over a period of time, shorter period of time. Because in theory, it's less robust infrastructure, right? Nick, do you want to add anything to that?
Covered it very well.
All right.
Chad, I've had a couple examples that might fit here. When the development behind Messiah Lutheran was built, it was a private development. They didn't put in sidewalks. Our ordinance required sidewalks if the streets were going to be public streets and the sidewalks were going to be public sidewalks. When we took that property over, then the city had to go in and we told them we wouldn't take it over until they put the sidewalks in. That's one development. And the other one is Spirit Hollow, and that development out there. They had talked at one time of possibly becoming incorporated into Burlington. But their design on their streets were considerably different than the design that we used in the city.
Yeah.
So if developers take over, we're gonna see that kind of thing all throughout cities.
And that's where it's most presented is, and I get it, right? A developer is trying to build affordable housing. They're trying to build a subdivision that meets all those constraints and criterias, but, you know, they're all about building, 12-foot streets with 4 inches of concrete and then say, by the way, city, please accept this subdivision, and now here it is, it's in the city. But then what's the first thing we do? We start sending fire trucks and garbage trucks and everything else down it. Well, we want it built to our specifications because we know what it's gonna take to send those apparatus down a street. Plus, we make provisions for curb and gutter, stormwater, utilities, all of those things are wrapped into SUDAS. So to do anything less than a board of technical experts, I think does a disservice to our taxpayers.
Yeah, and if you read the website, Chad, about SUDAS, it talks about how they wanted to adopt common standards for construction specifications. So, the uniformity and, the standard, if it varies, then you never know what you're bidding on, what you're fixing,
Right.
So I think it would make a mess of everything.
Has the potential to. The next couple of slides, I will invite our library director, Brittany Jacobs, to come forward. I have maybe just one other, Brittany, I'm sorry, I have 2 others here I'm going to cover just real quick. They're not in my slide presentation, but I did want to mention them. They came forward today. House File 2342, a bill for an act providing for the future repeal of tax credits. And there's a whole list of tax credits in here that are proposed to be repealed. Whatever your political leaning on tax credits and incentives and things like that, there were just a couple of that I thought I would highlight. So Division 1 repeals tax credits on a rolling basis over a 5-year period of time, beginning January 1, 2028 through January 1, 2032. The bill repeals the following tax credits that currently have no repeal date. And these may or may impact the city projects, et cetera. The solar energy system tax credit, the renewable energy tax credit, the Endow Iowa tax credit, which that whole tax credit right now is building our community foundations across the state. The historic preservation tax credit, the emergency personnel and tuition textbook tax credits, the public safety officer moving expense tax credit, the homestead tax credit, the elderly and disabled property tax credit or reimbursement. So those are just a couple, and again, in a whole list here. And then the last one, before I let Brittany come up, Senate File 2441, a bill for an act concerning locally imposed hotel motel taxes for tourism development, tourism promotion. The bill strikes the detailed list of permissible expenditures of at least 50% for locally imposed hotel motel taxes and specifies the governing authority of each city or county which levies the hotel motel tax shall spend at least 50% of their revenues on tourism development and tourism promotion in the city, which doesn't sound like a high bar. We're kind of there. The bill requires the city or the county to include a detailed accounting and explanation of the use of the monies for tourism development and promotion, beginning with the annual report on December 21, 27.
Did I follow you correctly? So on the one bill, the Senate they're trying to repeal the rollback and would go to, or is it the governor's bill, it goes to the homestead credit? But then in that breath, you're saying they repeal the homestead
They're
credit.
repealing homestead credit.
Clear as mud. I don't understand why they feel a need to pass something unless they have a solution, and they obviously don't.
And a lot of
I'm off
times
my
these are
soapbox.
competing bills.
Yeah.
So Anyway, the thoughts and comments expressed here are purely my own. They don't reflect the attitudes and opinions of the city council or the city.
Thank you.
Come on up, Brittany.
All yours.
Do I need to do the same disclaimer?
No.
So there are two bills that have survived the first funnel that would impact public libraries. There were 9 prior to the first funnel, so we've done a good job of narrowing it down to 2. This first one, 2324, the state would come in and prohibit what school boards are allowed to do as far as contracts that they enter with public schools. The 2 components of this would be, firstly, it would not allow any student IDs to act as library cards. This is similar to what Chad was talking about. There's a specific situation in the state, and now we see statewide legislation introduced. The Des Moines Public Schools, because of chronic underfunding and budget cuts, they eliminated all of their school libraries. But students still need access to books and resources to learn. And so they entered into an agreement with the Des Moines Public Library. The school IDs, this was an opt-in program, parents chose this at the beginning of the school year. They could opt in to allow their student ID to act as the library card. And so now we see this prohibition. No school board is allowed to let student IDs act as library cards. In Burlington, this is not how we operate. Burlington students cannot come in with their student IDs and use it as a library card. They need their own separate library card. Not to say that we wouldn't ever go down that road, because Burlington is also slimming its libraries in the schools due to funding cuts. They're down to 1 single librarian in the entire district for Burlington across all elementary, middle school, and the high school. It's a single librarian. So we were definitely headed in that direction, and that Burlington in the very near future may have an issue even maintaining their single librarian, in which case, how do we offer access to our students? Another implication is that the AEA provided a lot of the digital resources for our students in the school district, and with their funding cuts last year, a lot of those databases were cut. We are the only other entity in the community that provides digital databases, and students don't use their student ID to log in, they use their library card to log in. But this kind of language is going down the road of having absolutely no partnerships between the public schools and the public libraries. Now, the second component of this is a real bummer, because after 75 years, we just purchased the very first bookmobile. It's in Des Moines right now getting retrofitted, and we had hoped to roll it out in May ahead of summer reading and then start going to the schools next school year. This bill, if it passed, would not allow our beautiful bookmobile to even set foot on the property, nor would it allow library staff to use their own vehicles if it was carrying books or educational materials. So the language listed in here says books, electronic resources, or other educational materials from the public library would not be allowed on the school property. I spoke at the subcommittee hearing in Des Moines. The overwhelming majority of people in the subcommittee hearing spoke out against this. The overwhelming majority of people who wrote in on the comment section for the full committee hearing were against this. Nevertheless, it did pass both subcommittee and committee, and it's now eligible for a full House debate. It has not yet been scheduled for the debate, but that's where we're at with that one. Any questions on?
No, but it's so ridiculous, because on one hand, they're telling you, you have to combine services with neighboring communities, and then they tell you, you can't do that with libraries. That's
Right.
counterintuitive. I mean,
It's also D-U-M-B, dumb. Right, Tim? I mean,
It's like
Don't write that down, Tracy.
making, I don't, it's like, is the library bad? Is the school bad? Like somebody, like what?
What is
They're
it you
all
said
different.
before? Literacy matters?
Yeah.
A bit, yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
All right, next one.
Next one is a doozy, 2622, thank you. There are 7 components to this bill. We spent a lot of time talking about this at the advocacy committee meeting on the 25th of February. I'm going to kind of go out of order here because I want to follow chronology. So effective July 1 of this summer, this would move all governance from the Library Board of Trustees to the 5 of you, which means that you would then be in charge of what the trustees have thus been charged with. There are 5 components that the library board is in charge of as far as governance. They have to hire and fire the library director. The only position that you all currently hire and fire is the city manager. So this would create a separate precedent for you to hire and fire a department head, which means you would have to have some kind of oversight of the job that I'm doing. You would also have to oversee the monthly budget. You would have to write and implement all of the policies, so kind of going back to this other bill that was brought up that would
Well, we
make
have
you
to-
responsible for all policies across the departments. This would make you responsible legally for all of the library policies, which have to uphold our constitutionally guaranteed rights to access information, while also upholding Iowa state code and local ordinance. You would also have to, every 3 years, develop and write and publish the strategic plan. And then there is a mandate for education. We have one trustee here in the room with us, Mary Winan. We take our education seriously at the Burlington Public Library Board, and so you'd have to buckle up for a lot of reading and webinars per Iowa code. This is Iowa State code that you are held to as a library board member to educate yourself. So that would be effective July 1. The other components of this bill that would go into effect July 1 is that it would create and mandate an age-appropriate policy. Currently, libraries are held to the obscenity code, Iowa Code 728. This is a new definition. It's a very vague definition of what's appropriate, depending on the cognitive, social, and behavioral abilities of any child, which is vague enough to read into any text, any inappropriateness. It also requires the library board, which would be an advisory board effective July 1, they would have to review every item in the collection and determine whether or not it fits this new definition of appropriateness. There's 130,000 items in our collection. So the advisory library board, which are 7 volunteer community members who have no library training outside of the monthly training they're required by the state, no degrees in library or information science, they have to review and determine the appropriateness of 130,000 items. Then it requires city councils to uphold that vote on each item. So 130,000 more decisions coming from you to determine whether or not, and this is assuming that we bring all purchasing to a halt, because we're constantly adding to it, and so you would have to constantly be reviewing materials. If we are found in violation of the age-appropriate portion of this, meaning somebody comes in to the library, finds a book that they say is inappropriate for their child was in the vicinity of the book, we lose all tax funding. Previously, the last 3 years, these kinds of bills had a criminal offense, and it was a felony charge for the library director, which is pretty egregious. This doesn't have a criminal charge tied to it. It just removes 100% of your local funding if you violate this bill. This also includes vicinity access. So not only can children not check out material that are not appropriate, they can't be in the same area, which to me means I have to build a wall in the library and hire a bouncer to check IDs to go into the adult side of the building. But again, if somebody goes to the adult side, takes a book, goes over to the kid side and leaves it on a table, who's to say that I didn't do that and I'm not liable for that violation? So really, the only way that I see us being able to comply without risking 100% of our funding is to say nobody under the age of 18 is allowed in the building. Which again, literacy is important and it matters. We need to have access for our young people to materials.
And you can't take it in the bookmobile.
And we can't take it in the bookmobile. The other component of this bill is that it would end confidentiality records for minors. This is a really complicated component of this, and this stems from a very specific incident that happened out on the west side of the state. Currently, if a parent came into the library and said, this is little Johnny, he's my kid, and I want his full reading history record, we tell that parent, you go to the website, the library's website, you log in with Johnny's library card number, and you access that record. We will not hand it out to you. If you came in, Annie, and said, I want my full reading history record, we will tell you to go to the front end of the website and log in with your library card number. You access your record. We don't hand it out. The only time I will hand out anybody's record is if a warrant is presented to me from a police officer. This is our way that we maintain and protect your privacy. You still have access as a parent and as an adult to get your own reading history records. This bill would make it so that anybody who came and gave verbal confirmation that they were the parent or the guardian of someone, we would have to give out the reading record. Now, as a hypothetical situation, let's say there's a family, they go through a very ugly divorce. The kids have the dad's last name, but there's a no contact order against the dad because he was violent and abusive. If he comes in and says, these are my 3 kids' names, they match the same last name as me, I'm their dad, I want their full reading history records, how are we to know there's a no contact order? How are we to know anybody is anybody unless you're walking around with somebody's birth certificate? It creates an incredible gray area that we really have no right in navigating this. We have a process in place. There is not a problem with accessing records. So this bill is proposing solutions for problems that do not exist. The other component of this is that it would remove all language that references the American Library Association or the Iowa Library Association in our standards and accreditation, which is the regulatory document that we're held to on a state level. Any city over the size of 15,000 in population is required to hire a library director with a library or information science master's degree from an ALA accredited institution. If we're removing that requirement, we're deprofessionalizing our institutions, and we're creating another huge legal liability with our libraries because, as I mentioned, we're not just like all sunshine and rainbows and glitter parties here. We're upholding constitutionally guaranteed rights. Your First Amendment right to access information without fear of impunity. Without fear of aggression or arrest. This is an incredibly weak position to remove the requirement to have degreed professional librarians running your institutions. It also removes any ability to reference the Library Bill of Rights, which was written in Des Moines, Iowa. Forrest Spalding was the library director of the Des Moines Public Library, and in 1938 he wrote this document in response to what he saw happening in Nazi Germany and what he saw happening in his own backyard. So in Nazi Germany we saw books being burned as fascism took over their country, and in his own backyard he saw people turning on German neighbors and German library card holders, and so he wrote this document that said, hey, we all have the right to access information of all kinds. This is a short document that he wrote to guarantee that right, to protect his German neighbors, but to also protect Des Moines Public Library from succumbing to something like what the Nazis were doing to their libraries overseas. It was such a solid and stellar document that the American Library Association adopted it the very next year. It is now the global beacon to which every library on the planet points to. And it's an Iowa document. And for Iowa libraries to not be able to reference this is so insulting. I find it so insulting. Okay, the point of this bill, number 7, that I thought was the least egregious, got the most outcry at the library advocacy meeting. This says that all private gifts, devices, and bequests made to or for the benefit of the library would be accepted, held, and expended under the authority of city council. There's a lot of people in this community who don't want that to happen. We have 2 501c3s that support the public library, the foundation and the Friends. We have our Friends president here, Anita Wagner. They do an awful lot of fundraising for us, and we receive gifts from them on a monthly basis from the Friends and on an annual basis from the foundation. We also receive memorials and bequests on a fairly regular basis. If you look at our board packets, we have a full report in there of all donations from the last 30 days. People give to the library with the intention that the library have access to those funds and to be able to use them as they see fit. If city council were the only authority to hold and spend those private dollars, there is a potential for a violation of donor intent. There's a potential for the inability of the library to use those funds. There's a lot of potential negative ramifications, and I'm just telling you as a the messenger from the advocacy committee meeting, this was the point that people were most outraged about. So I encourage you, when you're talking with your constituents and people in the community, to keep your eyes and ears open as far as this component of the bill goes, because with the history of our library and the amount of private funding that we lean on regularly, this would be a significant change for us if it were going straight to city council to use this. So 7 components of the omnibus library regulation bill. It would impact you all significantly in that you would have to pick up a lot of duties otherwise that are assigned to the library trustees right now. Do you have any questions?
No, but I kind of want to clarify this. So if House File 2622 goes through, on July 1st, I'm going to be responsible for hiring and firing directors of the library. I will oversee the monthly budget, review and affect policies, implement a 3-year strategic plan, affirm a mandate for education, and create and mandate an age-appropriate policy, have the board review 130,000 items, and if we violate any of those things, we lose all funding. We lose money, but I don't face any criminal charges?
Sounds like
Correct.
a real.
Why would
Not
I
yet.
want to do that?
There could be an amendment for the criminal charge. But no criminal charges currently on this. It's just a total loss of funding.
I need a
So
drink.
when-
I don't agree with,
Take turns, people.
well, I don't agree with a lot of this. We just have, if it happens, we have to make it workable.
Right.
We would still depend on the library board, like we do all the other commissions and boards within the city, and would rely heavily on them for advice. I think the fears in the private gifts, devices and bequest made to the library is that which is handed to the library, and not that goes through a 501c3. I would hope that would be the case.
Well, and the thing about that is that the 501c3s can still hold and invest funds on our behalf, but anytime they give it to us, it's considered a gift. And so those entities would be giving directly to you, and then you'd have to funnel it back to the library. But there's no restriction in the funds in the language of this bill.
So essentially, we will write the checks, and it'll all be based on the advice we get from those professionals that we have at the library. So
So we
like
could
I
buy
said,
a
I'm not
fire
happy with-
truck.
I'm not happy with what I'm seeing here, but I hope we and further future councils can have a workaround on this, make it work.
I think that a lot of this bill in particular comes from libraries who perhaps don't have an excellent working relationship with city council and with city staff. There's singular situations that have happened, less than 5 throughout the state, that have turned into this omnibus bill. And because we don't have problems here in Burlington, I don't fear that we would have a catastrophic impact if this passed currently, but councils change every 2 years, and they're political in nature, and this would change potentially how the library is governed. However, what we have works, and there's not a need to fix it if it's not broken. We have so much oversight between the 7 trustees. You 5 get reports from me every single week, and you see all of the reports that go out monthly to the library board. I'm in constant communication with Chad. There's a lot of oversight for the library right now to ensure that what we're doing is appropriate for minors, appropriate for our community. And we have these nonprofits that supplement our budget when we have shortfalls and enhance our services on an annual and monthly basis. So this bill, it's just a solution looking for problems, and in Burlington, it would be difficult to pivot to this, and unnecessary and cause a lot of stress and cost taxpayer dollars. And with the age-appropriate content, I really do feel like we would not be able to allow 18 and under on the property without risk of losing our whole, because 130,000 items, and we've got 1 floor. It's not like we have separate floors so we can separate kids and adults.
It's another shining example of the government trying to paint a house with one paintbrush, one style of paintbrush. And the other thing is that also an example of, rather than telling that community to fix their problem. They're trying to fix everybody else in the state. So, my personal opinion is, I don't want any part of it. I agree with you. I feel what we have works. I think it works extremely well. There's checks and balances. So, the only thing you do is reach out to these people, and I would like to feel that we have impact, but by the same token, sometimes when you talk to me, you just have a blank slate staring back at you. It's really, really, really frustrating. Did I have enough reallys in there? One more, maybe.
Let me add a really.
Yeah.
So if this goes into effect July 1st, but they haven't, it's not actually
Hasn't passed yet.
passed
Hasn't
yet.
passed yet.
So do we know when it's gonna be?
So it's passed subcommittee and committee. It's
Right.
eligible for House floor debate. Next Friday, the 20th, is the second funnel deadline, so it has to get out of the House floor debate and go over to the subcommittee on the Senate side. Typically, the governor signs bills in May, beginning of May, if not late April. So we're talking about a 4-week turnaround.
Yeah.
And July 1 is the smack dab middle of summer reading. So we have a few contingency plans in place if this goes into effect, and we cannot allow children on the property. Because our summer reading program spans 9 weeks, and the last 5 weeks are past that July 1 date. So we are putting some pencil to paper and trying to figure out how would we pivot and what would this look like. That's how we came to the conclusion of, well, nobody under 18, this is one of the ways in which we would comply with this bill so that we can continue to receive funding. But there's a lot of components to this that would be very difficult to figure out how to pivot to make
Summer
it.
reading speakeasy. I like it.
Summer
There
reading.
you go.
Thank you, Brittany.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brittany.
Do you have any thoughts on that, Chad?
No.
Okay.
So the last page, Eric, you could, is just, again, kind of a summary. Maybe there's a couple of new ones in there, but our point for bringing all this information forward is just so you can be informed and aware. It was not to get political or to take sides or anything like that. We just want you to understand how some of these things are moving and how they may impact the city as an organization moving forward, so.
Yeah, it's just point blank, this is going to affect the city as a whole this way. It's not, it's what it is. If it passes.
Yeah, so,
These things pass.
thank you for your time. I know it's a lot. Took a while, but it's important stuff, so.
I appreciate the update. Moving on to another brilliant piece of state mandates. Proposed property tax memo. Stephanie, if you're ready to tackle that. Chad will, okay?
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. So this one comes actually from some legislation that's probably 3 or 4 years old now. It used to be called the max levy rate. It was an idea to be more transparent in city budgeting. It has been changed from max levy rate to proposed property tax levy rate. We will have a hearing on this on April 6th. The misnomer comes from the fact that it's proposed, and part of the reason it was max levy rate a couple of years ago was because the city was required to post and publish what we could levy for, not what we were going to levy for, but only in a few levies that were required to report maximum, but some of these other levies we didn't even have to mention. So while it was a max levy, it was a max levy for some things, but not everything. This isn't a whole lot different, but we still have to do a proposed, so that'll be ahead of the actual and real budget hearing. What will happen on April 6th is that, just like tonight, you'll have to have a public hearing, you'll have a meeting, a special meeting. You'll have to open it. It's a public hearing on the proposed, so you'll have this information. Stephanie will present it. You'll take public comment. Then you close the public hearing, and then you actually have to recess, leave the room, come back, is best practice advice from our attorneys, and then have the regular council meeting that night. They cannot be combined, nor can you set your regular budget hearing until you've had this proposed action. So that's some of the mechanics behind it. Again, Stephanie did a nice job kind of writing this out. Eric, do we have the? Yeah, so you have Stephanie's memo, and then you have the proposed property tax levy document in there. I had just received a copy of the letter from the county auditor's office. I'll send that around just so you can kind of take a peek at it. This is new and revised, but it's still just as confusing. For example, it assumes a 10% increase in your valuations. It's hypothetical, right? So it puts on there different assessments and levy rates in your property tax bill based on assumptions that may or may not happen. Again, it's proposed, right? As I mentioned earlier, that's some of the stuff they're trying to clean up and trying to get better at doing that. And I applaud that because that's confusing. But what that will show are these numbers here. Current tax rate, $15.93. Tax dollars at $13,053,000. Effective tax rate, 15.01. Proposed tax dollars, again with our valuation increases, 13.8 million. Proposed tax rate, 15.93. We've been through all that in our budget work sessions and information. That sheet will also share that information for the county and the school district, with the city, the county, and the school being the three largest taxing authorities. And then the second page of the memo, Eric, if you could go to that, shows examples in changes in property tax for the budget year. The last section of the mailing, I think it's the bottom there, shows a pair of examples which show a comparison of how the proposed taxes owed will change for property in the examples, assuming. So city information will be the following: regular residential, current year, 25-26, $756. Proposed year, 26-27, fiscal 27, $781, a 3.3% change. Regular commercial, 3,200. Proposed year, 3,600, a 10.9% change. I added the city manager's residential property, so these are my actual numbers. These aren't proposed or hypothetical. These are if you approve the budget coming later in April. My taxes would go from 1,800, city taxes only. We don't know what the county or the school's gonna do. We have no control over that. So city taxes only for my property this current year is $1,827. Proposed fiscal 27 is $1,921, just under a $100 increase at 5.1%. Stephanie, did I leave anything out? Okay. The reason, so we have to give a reason. I think this is interesting, and I'm gonna ding on some of my counterparts, but you have to give a reason for the tax increases or the changes in tax. Reasons: proposed property tax exceeds the current property tax. Cost increases on property and liability insurance, commodities, wages, and benefits. Okay. You don't have a lot of space to include all this stuff. By contrast, the county, I suspect they're going to put, and I'm calling them out, I get it. Reasons: proposed property taxes exceed the current property tax, inflation. So, there you go.
I don't know if that was on.
Yeah, any questions on that? We wanted to get this information to you ahead of time so you can kind of read through it and absorb it. This hearing is coming April 6th. Questions? Clear as mud? Okay, there you go. Thank you.
All right, moving on. Board and commission reports. Tim, you have anything?
Yeah, we had a few things going on last week.
Okay.
Mayor and I met with the fire department to discuss their long-range strategic plan. It's going to be a 5 or 6 part process. I thought the meeting was excellent. We discussed the vision and mission statement and how they're going to work at becoming the best fire department in the state. And there's parts of that they're gonna put together and hopefully the fire chief will share that once we get through that. But I thought it was an excellent meeting and looking forward to the next one. The other meeting that I had was with Economic Development. They're the ones that make recommendations on the spending of the Economic Development Fund. One of the decisions that was made was that companies that pay up to 130% of median wage in Burlington, new companies coming in, we raised that from $500 a job to $1,000 a job as a recommendation. Council will have to approve that. And then for those over 130,000, we raised it from 1,500 to 2,500. Is that right, Stephanie?
The percent, the 100%.
Percent, yeah.
Percent.
The last time you
Percent,
said
what
it,
did
yeah.
I say? I'm sorry.
That's all right. I think we understood what you're saying.
You follow me? Okay. And then we kind of run out of time, and we're going to go through the information on qualifications and that sort of thing and come back to you. I did let them know that council decided not to fund the $15,000 contribution this year, and they were advised through Stephanie that there's should we have a need for funding greater than the $230,000 that we have in the bank at this point, that there's $500,000 in the reserve in the help me out, Chad.
Local option?
Yeah. I'm drawing a blank there. The other meeting that we had, the mayor and I and Chad, we met with West Burlington to discuss ways that we can continue to help one another out. I had to leave early, and I'll let the mayor, when it gets to his time, to go beyond where we were at. But while I was there, where we were going through everything that we've done so far, and it's pretty significant, actually. At least the efforts have been pretty significant. So that's all I got, other than I was supposed to meet with the seniors today, but Alice had a family medical emergency, and I think the meeting got canceled, and we'll have an update on that. And I don't know if I had explained to the council. I know I talked to Chad about this at our last meeting. We discussed some options for them for the future. The building's gotten too big for them. Their numbers are starting to dwindle. The ones that are still involved are very involved and want to continue to be involved. And we're going to continue those discussions. And and Chad and I had some talks about the downtown partners and the art center and some potential partnerships that can take place there. That's all I got for now.
Okay, thank you. Annie?
I have none yet.
For me, Tim is correct. We did a kind of a complete review because it's been a little bit about our sharing services, our city sharing services, and it was decided that the next meeting we would try to focus on one or two particular areas because that took up most of our time. So we could start accomplishing some things. We'll be looking at a joint meeting here with their city council, hopefully in the next month or two. Then that was all I had. Okay? Oh, ditto on the fire department meeting. I thought it was excellent. I was privileged to be part of that and the first go-round, and we are in very good hands. It's great to see the leadership and the rank and file on that committee, so good job, Chief. Robert, did you have any?
No, BRE had the Snow Bowl, and I know it's a big event, but I'll hear the numbers and what kind of crowd they had next month,
Okay.
or this month.
That's it on boards and commissions. So now on appointments, we have one. This will be for City Planning Commission. Ryan Nagraki's term will expire on 3/6/2026, or has expired. And he has expressed interest in serving another term. It's requested the council consider reappointing Ryan to a new 3-year term expiring 3/6/2029. I would assume that he is abstaining when it's one of his projects, right? Okay. So we'll vote on that on Monday, council. That's the discussion items. Next up, a proposed regular agenda for March 16th, 2026. We'll have a proclamation for Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and that will be received by Delaney and Rachel. I don't have their last names. Number 2 is a public hearing and consideration of an ordinance rezoning property located at 1202 Patterson Street from R4 multifamily residential zoning district to M1 light industrial zoning district. This will be the first reading. City Planning Commission voted 6-0 to recommend approval. Mr. Tislett.
This is the property that council recently sold to Heritage Partners. They're at 1202 Patterson Street. Their desire is to build a building similar to those on the north side of Plank Street. They've submitted a request for rezoning, and again, the Planning Commission on February 24th recommended 6-0 to approve the rezoning based on the surrounding land use as commercial storage along Plank Street and compatibility with such uses in this area. Their plan within the lot, the parcel, is to access off of Plank Street with a driveway and have a building on the north side. It does slope down quite a bit to Patterson, so it'd be on the north side of the building. They were open to, if there's concerns about the homes on the backside, of some landscape buffer along the back of side of the building, but the access would be on Plank Street there.
Okay. Council, any thoughts or concerns?
The properties to the north is commercial, isn't it?
Yeah, yep, it'd be similar to the uses that are all up on this side of the property. Those have historically been zone M1 light industrial, so this request is to go from R4 multifamily residential to M1 light industrial zoning district.
Any other?
I drove through the neighborhood more than once, and I would really be interested in knowing how the homeowners feel about this. It's pretty woodsy and overgrown right now, and I'm not sure a commercial type structure on the south side of Plank Street, to me, doesn't seem to fit with the rest of the neighborhood. I don't like to use the word weird, but it's a weird neighborhood.
Well, it looks like to me, if you look on there, there's several other what considered commercial locations, one across the street, one here, one there. I'm just pointing out, sorry, council, on my screen. So, you know, I've driven through there as well, and I really don't, but we'll vote on it. I really don't have an issue with it, but.
You'll have a public hearing on it, Eric. Were there
Public hearing,
comments
right.
at the P and Z meeting?
No, we send out notice to everyone within 200 feet
Okay.
for the planning commission and for the council meeting. We did have one of the neighbors to the west previously bid on the lot, and we told them it was a buildable lot. We've had interest in it. They just wanted to combine it with their property. At the time, I think they resided 1109 and then have a rental. And then there's another lot in between them, but they didn't want to develop it. That was the only comment we had. That was a few months before the
remember
actual
that one.
hearing.
There's a lot of broken concrete and rubble type stuff on the hillside to the east where Patterson curves around into Plank Street. It's kind of messy.
And I know the purchaser, the one that purchased the lot from the city, wants to clean that lot up a little bit as well. But again, having access along Plank with the building on the north side of the lot and then potential for some screening to the south of it.
Any other thoughts or concerns? Number 3, public hearing, consideration of ordinance vacating and selling a portion of Court Street right-of-way located east of North Main Street, Burlington, Iowa. This will be the first reading, and City Planning Commission also voted 6-0 to recommend approval on this.
So this is vacating a portion of Court Street that was not vacated 30 years ago when the other portions were. So it's in front of 113 Court Street here, this portion of right-of-way. It's a little easier to see on the GIS as well. So you can see these two portions of Court Street were vacated. That was in 1988. This portion was offered to be vacated at the time, but the owner of the building did not want to pursue that, didn't want to pay for the vacating ordinance or purchase of the property. The current owners have requested to vacate it and purchase that right away, similar to those to the west of them, both on north and south side of the roadway. It would just attach this about 24-foot area of land to their property to the south. Again, Planning Commission did review, did send out notice and voted 6-0 to recommend approval of the vacation.
Thoughts or concerns, council?
It would keep access to the alley to the east, which is an access for the sheriff's department.
Sure.
Would not affect that at all.
Okay. Hearing none, moving on. Number 4, be a public hearing, which is a consideration of an ordinance amending various sections of Chapter 163 Environmental Nuisance of the City of Burlington Municipal Code. This will be the first reading.
This is an amendment reviewed by our attorney, just to make sure we're, I guess our procedures are clear and we're following procedures on how we're enforcing nuisances. So I'll go through each section. 16303 nuisance is designated, just clarifying outside, junk outside, items left outside which are not designed or intended to be outside are considered a nuisance. And a lot of these are based on comments or questions we've gotten just to make sure how our code is written is clear for how we're enforcing it. The right of entry for inspection, this clarifies access by code officials to make inspections based on case law. Generally don't enter private areas of property, but if there's an area open from the sidewalk, they do go on the property to take photos to know what is the nuisance. If we're asked to leave, we leave, but if it's open from the street or sidewalk, being able to access that to take photos to know what is a nuisance and send that to notice to the property owner. So just clarifying that access to visually inspect and photograph that property that's open. 16307 is just a clear up of how the code is written. 16308, notice to abate nuisance contents. Again, just clarifying this applies to where the building is a safety hazard and where the code expressly requires in certain circumstances, just cleaning that section up a little bit. This section of code was written and adopted, I believe, about 8 or 10 years ago by our attorney, Lynch Dallas, and so this review was done by them as well. Method of service, again, clarifying the practice of notifications for minimum items, weeds, grass, trash, debris of little value, by our placard notice, just making that explicitly clear. That's how those are notified. Again, we do have that ability for rental properties to email the landlord in those cases, which is our practice. Ultimately, the goal is for residents or owners to maintain and clean up property in a timely manner. We don't want to do this, but this just makes it clear on how we actually do the nuisance abatement process for our staff and for individuals reading code. No changes in how we're doing it. It's just making it expressly clear in code of how we are doing the nuisance abatement process.
Any thoughts or concerns, council? Any of the proposed changes? We'll vote on that. Or have a read and vote on.
I talked you into closing those blinds.
Oh, were you getting blasted, Tim? Sorry. Moving on, a resolution adopting an administrative policy, employee protection. I know that's from harassment and abusive conduct by members of the public. Mr. Byrd.
I'll review this one, bringing it forward for staff. It seems that some of the interactions with the public have become contentious, volatile in some cases. And so we want to bring forward a policy that kind of outlines or defines the relationship between staff, council members, and members of the public through an administrative policy. So the administrative, I'll just read through some of the scope and applicability. The administrative policy establishes a framework for addressing abusive, threatening behavior towards city employees while preserving appropriate access to municipal services. Applies to all city employees, elected officials, interns, and volunteers. Covers all city facilities, work sites, vehicles, service counters, and official communication channels, including electronic communication, emails, phone systems, and voicemail, and applies to both in-person, electronic, telephone interactions with members of the public. Prohibited conduct. Examples of unacceptable behavior include verbal abuse, such as yelling, profanity directed at staff, or demeaning remarks, harassment or intimidation through repeated hostile communication, threats of physical harm, retaliation, or property damage, discriminatory or derogatory language directed at employees, obstructive conduct at service counters or refusal to leave when directed, harassing or threatening phone calls. Appropriate employee response procedures. The policy provides clear steps for employees to follow. Provide a calm verbal boundary and request respectful communication. Issue warning if inappropriate conduct continues. Terminate the interaction if behavior persists. Notify supervisors and document the incident. Request assistance from supervisors, security, or law enforcement when safety concerns arise. And we have seen a lot of these situations, not just here at City Hall, but other departments as well. And I feel it's important to have kind of an outline of what's expected in these types of interactions. This policy would also include proper notification on a desk or a door or an entrance to an office or a conference room or something like that, so that there's ample notification and warning. But then the procedures that I mentioned are ones that I would fully expect our staff to utilize at their discretion, and that I would support. So we're asking for council review in support of such policy as well. And I would say it's disheartening that we have to get to this point, but probably in the last year or so, we've seen a rise, an increase in these types of interactions and behaviors.
That's sad.
It is sad, but I don't know about you, but it's been more than just the last year for me. But council thoughts or concerns?
No concerns.
Okay. I appreciate you willing to put the policy together, Chad, to
Yeah.
protect our people, so thank you.
Is this one of those that'll have to become a ordinance once the
Potentially,
passes?
yeah.
Next up will be a resolution approving an extension. Do you want to address 6 and 7 together?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to read them both, Eric. First is a resolution approving an extension for completion of a property locally known as 417 South Garfield Avenue, City of Burlington. And then number 7 is a resolution possibly rescinding the sale of the property locally known as 417 South Garfield, City of Burlington, Iowa. Go ahead, Eric.
So the property at 417 South Garfield was sold to Kelly Hull on September 15th, 2025. As part of the conditions of sale, they need to be substantially complete with the project within 180 days of approval by City Council. An extension may be granted by the Development Department if significant progress is made. We did an inspection on February 18th Some of those photos are in the memo attached to the items. Some additional photos are here on the screen. Based on the conditions of the home as it was currently on that date, it did not appear that significant progress had been made. There has been progress, there has been some work done on the home, but based on past practice of what is to be done for significant progress, it did not appear to be met from a staff standpoint. So that's why we requested this to come to city council. If staff isn't able to approve the request, then it would come to city council regardless. So a couple of the items, the electric service, the water heater, furnace, all the piping to the furnace is rusted out, not connected, not complete. A lot of the drain lines or vent pipes are not complete. This is the current condition of the kitchen. The plumbing that was completed in the kitchen is shown here in the top left, the 2 water lines and then the vent running to the back porch that may or may not be removed at this point based on its condition, in which case the vent may need to be changed as well. This is the stairs at that time had been removed. They weren't compliant. This is the current bathroom, leaking bathtub, no sink in the bathroom. And then some of the finished work on the drywall was not of an acceptable standard or workmanship manner completion. You can see the mud and tape joints, some other areas where they put in drywall and hadn't done mudding or taping to date. So did pass along to the purchaser that this would come to council. There is more details in the memo as far as items complete and then items that need to be completed or remaining to be completed. And then as far as extension request, what we look for, what our code inspectors look for primarily electrical, plumbing, mechanical, gas lines, and exterior are the key factors we look at for granting an administrative extension, and then what the conditions of 417 South Garfield are based on those conditions. So with that in the packet are 2 resolutions, the first being a resolution approving an extension. This does state for 180 days. And then the second resolution is a resolution rescinding sale. So essentially, council would approve one and deny the other based on how you see moving forward with the project. A couple of the notes on that, did just receive a letter from Alliant. I just got before coming up here. Records indicate that the owner of the property at the service address, the utilities are planned to be disconnected on March 11th. I just don't know why, other than assume non-payment, so this will be forwarded on to the purchaser. Like I said, just got that before coming up here. And also, we have had a few emails from Elite Electric that did install the electrical service. They reached out about supposed past non-payment for work done and had inquired when the council meeting is, so I'd anticipate they may be here on Monday as well, so just relay that on.
Eric, what was the purchase price on that?
12,000.
Yeah. It was $12,000.
Did she make good on that?
Yeah, if they don't pay within 30 days, then it would come to council for rescinding immediately. Yeah.
Okay.
We have had some cases in the past where we have had payment and some work done and rescinded sale. And we've had some that have had extensions based on, I guess, their work that they have done. This one, I guess, has a pretty extensive outline on progress, and certainly if there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer. I would say a couple of key items here. We give 60 days to start work and pull the building permits. They got their building permit on day 61 or 62. Some of the permits, the plumbing permit was just issued in February, so some of those delays in work being done is based on their time frame to start. I mean, we have contractors that start immediately and are done with the entire project within 3 or 4 months. We have some that make significant progress in that first 6 months and then take another few months to complete it. I would say that's the majority of them, is they make significant progress in the first 6 months, meeting the standards of an administrative extension, and then wrap it up within 3 or 4 months after that. This one just hasn't hit those key factors.
Are we allowed to ask if there's any other properties that she's purchased that she's successfully completed or is not completed as well?
Nothing she's bought from us.
Okay.
Nothing with the city.
Okay.
And I think just staff perspective is that we've seen slow progress, if any progress. As Eric noted, just even pulling the permits has taken, in this case, 5 months to even pull some of the permits. We just don't feel that we can consider an extension when there's just a laundry list of items that have not been done. Substantial progress has not proceeded over the course of the winter or since ownership. We don't have faith that's going to happen in any extension of time. So Eric's prepared this information. If you need additional information before next week, just let us know.
I did send an email notice, which we corresponded that way quite a bit, so back and forth on if they want staff to do another progress inspection to be able to update council if there's been any progress since that February 18th inspection by staff, to let us know, and we'd be happy to walk through to be able to give that to council. Haven't received any response on that as of yet. So.
Seems like a couple of those pictures, it looks like it took 1 step forward and 2 steps back.
Yeah, fortunately, some of the work that's been done, it has to be redone. They painted some of the house, they didn't scrape it before they painted it, so there's some peeling paint, some overspray that they looked like they had started some of the trim paint. The back parking requires 2 paved parking spaces. They put down some asphalt sealant over top of dirt. That doesn't meet any standard, would have to be, so that's not a hard surface.
Can't do that?
The back porch either has to be designed to meet code or removed. There's a 6-inch concrete block as pier footings, and then not being constructed correctly. Bottom sill plates are rotting out. The kitchen has not made much progress besides the plumbing at that time. Some of the flooring, the hallway flooring, I know this is sideways, is not level. It needs to be adjusted quite a bit, but the finished work does not meet any standard that we would accept, so
Is there any room in the house that's finished at all?
not to standard. No.
Okay.
But again, this is from February 18th. We haven't been asked back. We've inquired to do an inspection before next council meeting if they want us to be able to provide updates, but we haven't gotten response on that yet.
In that upper right-hand picture,
That's the drywall work she's done, or they had done.
is that over a lump, or is that,
Assume that's a joint, but it has to be sanded, refinished.
okay.
Okay. Any other thoughts or concerns, council? As Eric stated, and Chad too, if you need more information, please contact Eric and he can give you that info, and we'll discuss that on Monday. Number 8, resolution approving the final plat of the CES subdivision.
So this is a 2-lot subdivision off of Valley Street, just across from Palo School project, here at 1122 Valley Street. Previously was 2 lots. They combined a number of years ago, looking to re-subdivide. Not exactly how it was previously, because they have to meet current setbacks, so it'd be off-center a little bit, but 2 buildable lots, just creating existing lot for 1122 and then a separate lot to the west.
Okay. Any thoughts or concerns, council? One of those used to be Gibby's, I think. Number 9, resolution approving the purchase and construction of salt storage building for Public Works Department. Nick,
Good evening again.
good evening.
I know it's felt like it's been a minute since I've been back up here. So the resolution in front of you would authorize staff to go through with the purchase of a new salt storage facility. The current salt storage facility is just immediately north of the Public Works facility, installed in 2001. It is at its end of life. Salt is a pretty corrosive product to store inside a building. It's rusted out the galvanized steel arches, and so we've planned for this building or this structure to be redone for several CIPs. And so with the approval of this resolution, we would purchase and construct a 112 by 72 salt storage building through Freedom Builders out of Belle Plaine for $182,907.27. We had a fiscal year 27 budget of $220,000 paid for out of road use tax. The current salt dome is not at the same size. Some of the thing that we've also learned over time is that we need more salt storage available. We have quite a bit that actually comes out of the south side of the building that we have to tarp up. So we purchase our salt through the DOT contract, and so we have to honor a certain percentage of the contract even if we don't use it in fiscal years. So we receive it, and so we try and put as much as we can in, but there's a lot that gets left out. So you can tarp it, however, being, in the elements, the rain will, dissipate some of the value of that salt. So we're trying to size a more appropriate sized building. And then we just purchased the lot immediately to the northwest of the Public Works facility. You can kind of see a kind of preliminary layout. The building onto the left is part of the flood wall storage facility that we have planned with the flood mitigation project. And then the salt storage building is more towards the north, kind of right where that driveway is. We have to talk with the cell tower folks to get them access, but we intend to give them access through our property rather than through the previous property owner that's just to the north of that, and then through what is now our property. So I think it's a good layout. It allows us for a little more expansion, but just wanted to give you a little bit of a visual of what we intend to do with this purchase.
Thoughts or concerns, council? Okay, moving on to proposed consent agenda. Thanks, Nick. Proposed consent agenda for March 16th, 2026. First will be a resolution approving nuisance abatements for various properties. If you have any questions or concerns about a particular property, please contact Eric. Number 2 is a resolution approving a training agreement. Mr. Bird, are you handling that one, or?
I don't have it with me, but it's our typical, I think this is a CDL.
Yep.
CDL agreement, so. Sorry?
It's you?
Solid waste. This
Solid
one's in
waste,
solid
okay.
waste, so it's similar to what we see, though, for that CDL training, and it
Okay.
would enter into a 24-month contract.
Any thoughts or concerns, council?
No.
Number 3 is a resolution approving the renewal of a taxi cab / vehicle for hire license for Matthew Reynolds at doing business as Burlington Cab Company. Any concerns there from anybody? Staff's saying it's okay. Council, you have any thoughts or concerns?
None.
All right, number 4, resolution designating a public purpose for an employee recognition event.
So this is one that we ask council to look at every year. In order to spend public funds for such employee recognition, we need to have the council approve public purpose for such. And so you've seen this resolution before. We typically hold a picnic-style event at the Public Works facility in early April, recognizing our staff, their tenure, and any other significant milestones. So it's usually just a few $100s. We do it kind of on the cheap, but we have a lot of fun doing it. So we'll ask for your approval.
Okay, any thoughts or concerns, council?
None.
All right, number 5, resolution approving the Title VI Non-Discrimination Assurance and Title VI Non-Discrimination Agreement. Stephanie?
So this is required by the state DOT, since we receive federal funds. Well, the federal funds come to the state, then they come to us. So they come at about every 5 years, do a little audit, make sure that we're updating this and that nothing has changed, that we're still following all the federal guidelines that they want us to. So really hasn't changed. The last time we approved this was 2020, basically the same two agreements, so.
Okay, any thoughts or concerns, council?
None?
Then we're gonna set the date for public hearings. Consideration of plans and specs for 2026 Sunnyside Stormwater Sewer and Improvement Projects. That'll be April 6, 2026. The second one will be a consideration of a consolidated transit grant application. That'll be for April 20th, 2026. And third will be a consideration of City of Burlington proposed property tax levy for fiscal year July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2027, and that will be April 6th, 2026.
And Mayor, I would ask if you would add one more set date to that
Okay.
list. It's not on this work session agenda, but working with our bond counsel and our financial advisor, we'd like to get a set date on for public hearing for 2026 bonds.
Okay,
For what?
2026 bonds, so it'd just be setting a date for a public hearing next
okay.
week.
We're all right with adding that, council?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and future discussion items would be the vet ride transit program, and that will feature Jocelyn Gonzalez Williams of the Self-Reliance Group, and that'll be March 30th. That's the end of the work session agenda. We'll go around the room and get council or department heads. Eric, you got anything else?
Just
for
a
development?
reminder, Shamrock Shuffle's coming up this Saturday. Still can sign up to and including race day. Should be a good time, hopefully not too bad of weather. We've had some cold weather in the past, but doesn't look too bad this year. Also want to just update the pool survey will be open through March 20th. That's on our website, so if you haven't yet, or you know anyone that still wants to give their input through the pool survey, that's open through March 20th. Did present to Rotary today just to talk through some of the process. Showed kind of what our existing pool is, what an all-in concept is. That's kind of an unreasonable concept of $12 million. But just that's what JEO presented. If you want everything, this is what it is, this is what it costs. That's not where we're at, not what we're gonna have, but we want to get through that public input process over the next month and get down to something that the community wants, that the city can afford to be able to try and move that forward. So we are looking at Parks Advisory meetings, some stakeholder input meetings, council update, and then hopefully public input, open house in April at the library. Don't have those dates set yet, but there'll be a lot of opportunity to still give that input and get towards something that the community can support and what meets the needs of the community. We know this isn't quite what it is, but just wanted to show kind of where we're at in the process and talk through that, and then just let council know. We're working through that process, and hopefully in April timeframe, we'll have an open house and be able to narrow it down to something that is more feasible and talk through what the next steps are after that.
Okay. Ken, anything from Waterworks? I know he was getting ready for us. He's limbering up.
So I just wanted to pass on to you that we have finished our work at Fifth and Washington, replacing a valve and a hydrant, and so the process can keep moving on with that there. Reworked any other valves that was in the street there. Also, if you get any calls, any concerns, we're gonna be starting to flush dead-end hydrants throughout the city, so people might, if you hear rusty water or anything, just have them give us a call. We'll talk them through that. Another thing, we got an approval letter today from the Iowa DNR approving us for SRF funding for our filter house project in the amount of $33.8 million for that project. So our engineering firm's working on that. So yeah, that's just the start. So but it's going to happen. It looks like which we have to have it. So it's got to happen. So anyway, everybody wants to turn on that tap. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Good job. Tim, anything from wastewater? No? Brittany, anything else from the library? No? Stephanie, nothing from finance? Nick, Public Works? Oh, heck, Nick, sit down. I forgot. Chief? Chief?
Yes, sir.
All right, Nick, now you can come back up.
Sit down.
Sit down, Nick. I didn't want you standing there getting all anxious.
come up.
I didn't want you getting all anxious, that's all.
So a couple things. We put out a post last week, at the end of the week, on your free week, free Monday, here on the 23rd, we will be having a public meeting at the library about Cascade Bridge. It is at 5:30 PM. We have, we're expecting quite a few people, so we got both meeting room A and B. Secondarily, we poured some concrete out on Third Street. Thank the Lord, we're moving forward. Gosh, what was that other thing I was gonna say? I forgot on the way up.
How's citywide cleanup going?
Well, we've done a few bulky item program pickups.
All right.
Most of them are using the forms. There are still a few individuals that like to, phone calls are best, so. We help them through that process and let them know of the form, but seems to be working okay. Our guys, have run into a couple of, issues along the way, but nothing that they're not able to handle, so.
Good deal. Thank you. Very sneaky between you and Bert at taking away our free Monday. Thank you.
I'm not even gonna be here, I had nothing to do with it.
Mr. Byrd.
By the way, I'm not gonna be here on the,
Yeah. All right.
I have nothing else.
Okay. Council, Tim, you got anything?
Yeah, we're meeting with, I'm meeting with Waterworks tomorrow. And one of the things on the agenda is a 5% increase in water fees. Think about that when we're finalizing the budget.
All right. Thank you. Robert, anything?
No, but when's the next library advocacy meeting?
They don't have a schedule yet, they're gonna wait till the second funnel, it's a little bit closer.
I highly encourage everyone to go to that because it's informative and you learn a lot and you also, it kind of opens your eyes to what's going on in legislature and how it impacts you directly. So I highly recommend going to one of these meetings.
Okay. Ms. Kay, you got anything else?
I do have. March is Women's History Month, and I thought it would be fun to talk about Melvina Bauman, who lived in Burlington at the corner of 6th and Division in that blue building. She was a dressmaker here in Burlington. And in the 1890s, when there was no such thing as a simplicity pattern or a Vogue pattern or anything, and there were not ready-bought clothes, you had to hire a dressmaker. She developed a pattern system to help people who needed to sew their own clothes and got a patent for it. And her system was shown at the Columbian Exhibition in Chicago in 1893. And I thought, that's a good thing for Burlingtonians to know in Women's History Month.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, anything?
Unfortunately, no, I don't have anything.
Council talk is Wednesday, and on the